wake up. Oh,
What?
you are awake. You're just being useless again.
I don't feel.
Hello? Hello?
These aren't.
Do I need to get an air horn?
These aren't my hands.
Why are you like...
Jeez,
There
it
you
scared
go.
me.
Well, serves you right.
Wait.
You...
Signalis.
Signalis?
Must be it.
What the world's a
Yeah,
Signalis?
Signalis. It's a riddle wrapped within an enigma.
Sharp, that looks like a Switch game.
The more I try to understand this stupid thing, the less I know.
Well, it's just a video game. You can try. That's kind of what this video's going to be, right? Right?
Signalis is an odd title to me. While I knew I loved it from the moment I first played it, I couldn't for the life of me understand why it left the impact it did. I love this game, the esoteric nature, which I can only compare to works like End of Evangelion, the creepy lingering sense of dread present within the best of Silent Hill, and the well-designed, if somewhat restrictive, Resident Evil-inspired mechanics all come together to craft a horror experience that feels both old and new at the same time. Signalis was clearly crafted with a great amount of love and care, and has something to say at its center, but I can't for the life of me explain the core of this game. And oddly enough, I think that's the point.
Wait, Sharp, how exactly are you going to cover a game that you don't understand?
I don't know. You know what? Let's just start at the most obvious spot. The beginning of the game. Alright, let's start with the basics. Signalis follows a replica designated Elster searching for her companion, Alina Seo.
A replica?
Yeah,
What's a replica?
replica.
What's
You
a
know,
replica?
a replica, a biomechanical being that was created by the Ministry for Work and Education to perform various tasks. You know, each replica consists of a mechanical frame with synthetic biomass sustained by an oxidant, which kind of looks like blood but isn't really blood, and a neural network donated by a Gestalt.
Okay, what the heck is a gestalt?
Essentially a human.
Just a human.
Well,
do you know
how do
all this?
you not know? The opening takes place on a ship where, via the use of a photo of Ariane Yang, we quickly exit, go through a snowy planet to some kind of gateway, jump into a massive hole, and crawl through a crevice into an office where we find a book. At this point, something happens. The game's kind of vague and weird about it. I'll just play the cutscene.
Achtung, Achtung, 3, 9, 4, 8, 5, 3, 9, 4, 8, 5, 6,
After this, we're placed into a dilapidated restroom, peering into a mirror. We exit the bathroom and find nobody is home, but we do find a couple of bodies, and this body, which is still alive. This star unit is gravely injured, but she does tell us some important information. All the Gestalt workers are held in the mines below, and also, she recognizes Elster, which is odd. However, we also find a keycard in this room, which helps us progress. Using said security card, we can enter the Protector's office. Here we find some documents and a gun. Oh no. No, I know what this means. But there is an information card here too. With this information card in hand, we go up the hallway to... shoot. Why does this keep happening? Why can't they just stay dead?
You know, people probably say the same thing about you.
ZZ, that's a low blow.
I'm stuck inside a television. This is all I have.
This is, or, well, was a Yule unit. A unit designed specifically for medical and domestic tasks. However, now it's just a lumbering monster. These units are fairly easy to dispatch, a couple bullets will reliably take them down, but they can be overwhelming. We enter the lab that we were heading toward, only to find a Gestalt with a knife. This is Issa Ito. She's here to find her family. We briefly interact with Issa before she exits, and soon we follow suit, opening a safe in a classroom and using that keycard to open a door. We find a massive hole in a classroom. Well then, we proceed to jump down the hole and find an elevator, but it's locked behind a keycard. We also find a box with a butterfly design, which, through our notes, we find that our target was the previous owner. Unfortunately, the key to this box is broken in half, and both halves are on opposite sides of this map, which you must go around in a loop. That is made even more complicated by the introduction of the game's next enemy, the Star. These replicas are designed for combat, perfect for security and crowd control. They carry a stun prod, and some later will carry a riot shield, and generally speaking are much bulkier than the Yule units. As expected, these take more shots to put down, and also are capable of small bursts of speed. These are much more intimidating than the Yule units just because they are a lot harder to just walk around. However, they're manageable, fairly easy to handle, but I think that's not the scariest part about this place. The scariest part to me is the environmental storytelling. A couple of times you'll see Yule units performing tasks that are fairly normal. There's something about this, something that just feels off. And I can't quite put my finger on it. While yes, there are notes here and there which provide hints of what exactly is happening, the most that you could probably piece together at this point is that some virus has spread throughout the space. But that still doesn't answer a lot. After opening the box, we find the Plate of Eternity. No idea what this is for, but it seems useful, so let's store it for later. Speaking of which, the inventory system follows the rule of 6. Only 6 items can be held. This can become annoying, so the menu offers alternatives. The other option is 8 slots, but I prefer the new revised system, which allows for certain items to be condensed and prevents modules from taking up inventory space, while still feeling just cramped enough to make me feel claustrophobic.
Is this like the cardboard?
No, it's nothing like the cardboard. Nobody's gonna even get that. Nobody watched last episode. However, once we find the 2 key pieces, we open the small butterfly box and find the Plate of Eternity. But we find another thing here as well. The radio. And this is our other main mechanic for the game that I actually haven't mentioned yet. See, just like an actual radio, you have to tune the frequency of this to catch certain broadcasts. At this point, we use the radio to find a safe code, and bam, Elster can use the elevator now. We ride the elevator and arrive in a medical facility. This section is tense, with the rooms being more cluttered than the dorms earlier, and there is a massive door in the middle that we need certain keycards to open. So we explore the floor and find a way into the flooded basement, and after entering one of the rooms, encounter another enemy. These are the ARA units, mechanic replicas which often hide within the very vents they service. They are not the most hardy, but are certainly a threat in numbers. While in the basement, we find a tape which we can play in a CRT upstairs. This shows us a flashback or something. This white haired girl keeps showing up throughout the game, and we'll get there when we get there, I promise. But that leads into even more questions. Why is the facility like this? What is this mysterious illness that we keep hearing about? Why has it affected everyone? And why does it not seem to affect Elster? I digress. At this point, we have key cards, so we eventually acquire all the ones for the store and we enter a hole. Why are there so many of these? After entering this pit, we fight the first boss, a mining unit. This is the Mina. These replicas are designed for mining and equipped with high-powered mechanics and a laser cutter. After dodging a few volleys of this cutter, they eventually will lurch over and you can shoot them in the face. This boss is not hard, just keep moving and burn the corpses of the other enemies, which reminds me, the combat in this game is great. See, while many of Signalis' inspirations place the camera at a lower angle or behind the player, Signalis opts for a top-down perspective. This allows the combat to feel smooth without becoming too easy. Shots will likely hit if you need them to, but conserving limited ammo requires the player to concentrate, hold steady, aim at one enemy, and then after you shoot them, probably walk over and step on them. Also, as I just mentioned, corpse burning is necessary to keep the player safe. Otherwise, enemies will resurrect. This adds yet another limited resource and, in my opinion, adds a lot more stress, which is kind of the point of this type of game. I think Signalis perfectly combines its more linear nature with Resident Evil's resource management. Storage boxes are spaced out enough to create a sense of dread, but also common enough that I rarely was frustrated by running back and forth between them. It was just enough of a trek to be dangerous, but not so much that I was always reluctant to go back to one. However, no combat can save you from the Adler unit, as he sees Elster and immediately throws us down the elevator shaft, which is a weird way to say hello, and apparently this is a bad habit because we land on other Elster units, and slowly come to in the maintenance bay. Utilizing an emergency stairway, we enter the living quarters below. Wait, where did my vision go? The Calibri are the most unique enemy in the game. They force you to adjust the radio to a specific frequency before you can shoot them. And, well, due to this, they become the highest threat in any room they're in, just due to the fact that if you can't see, you're kind of at a massive disadvantage. We also find a flashlight and a tape which we can put in a broadcaster to, well, play classical music out of the radio. Just what I needed. After more exploration, we enter the captain's quarters where we see her sleeping with an owl in her hand. This is a Folker unit. And, well, it looks somewhat similar to Elster, but that's probably just some kind of weird coincidence, am I right? However, we can ignore this for now. You just play classical music, the container opens up. But I do want to talk about this area a tad. You know how I mentioned the mundanity of what some of the units are doing is kind of unsettling in the early game? Well, here we actually get more so of a feel of what the everyday life is for these units. It's a lot of smaller things that just add up. Everything from notes about units being frustrated by just general goings on. For example, earlier we had a unit frustrated because one of her sockets was stolen. And if you look at this area, it's no different. One of my favorite little side tangents is the fact that you see a note that says, "I'm tired of the Yule units playing this darn song over and over again," which is actually the song that we heard earlier. Yulender. I probably butchered that. However, here's the thing. If you go into the actual Yule dorms, you see a knife stabbed through the tape player. There are small little touches like this all over the game where you can kind of get an idea of the goings on before everything went downhill. And I really do love that. It would have been just as easy to make this an area with very little going on, but the fact that there's so much you can infer just from environmental cues and the few notes you find scattered about is really great. I love it when games do this, and Signalis is a master class in designing stories without showing anything visually. Everything is told through subtext, and I love that. However, after a few more puzzles, we find the key to a lift. This lift leads us down into the mines. Meanwhile, Issa kicks Adler down the mine shaft, which is completely deserved. Seriously, this is the most cathartic cutscene I have ever seen. However, the mines are not exactly a place of rest. Here we can see multiple units found at the brink of death. We see the extent of the carnage. Even the world itself seems to be in pain. Everything from a Star and a Yule unit sharing their final moments together, to a unit called Bayo, a Mina unit who is injured beyond repair and just wants us to leave her to die. However, we have another hole to jump down. The one that Adler was pushed down. We go into it willingly and, well, welcome to nowhere. An area very obviously inspired by Silent Hill 1. See, there's an area at the end of that game that is also called Nowhere, and, well, the industrial and grotesque environment, the religious undertones, they fit Signalis just as well as any Silent Hill game. Speaking of inspirations, Signalis takes influence from The King in Yellow, an anthology series by Robert W. Chambers, about a specific play that causes all those who read the script to go mad and summon the titular King in Yellow. In turn, this actually inspired Hoster within the lore of H.P. Lovecraft. This lends a supernatural air to Signalis, which, in combination with the replicas, human in all but flesh and blood, creates an uneasy feeling, as if this is the consequence of humanity playing the role of a god. Perhaps we weren't supposed to create life. Perhaps this is what the Gestalts deserved, a hell of their own creation.
Sharp, just get to the point already.
Soon we meet another boss, the Chimera, a misshapen caged mound of flesh which is also clearly inspired by Silent Hill. This enemy has Issa cornered, so we fight it. This boss can't be killed by traditional means, so it's more so a waiting game as we wait for Issa to fire Adler's rifle into it. After she fires this, she is knocked out from the recoil, but if you wake her up later, you can receive the rifle yourself. This is the most powerful weapon in the game, but ammo for it is fairly scarce. Eventually, while exploring, we find the door, which requires the Plate of Eternity. We need to find the rest of the plates around here, but that's made more complicated by the introduction of our final traditional enemy, the Storch. A tall replica tasked with overseeing their kin, these units are barely even human-like post-mutation, sporting no arms and a massive obtuse head. They have the highest HP of all traditional enemies, and a decent range when it comes to their attacks due to their head. We also find the rest of the plates. We open the door, which we have seen before in a flashback, now that I recall. And, well, we're met by Adler and a gate. We walk past into a great red beyond, a sea of nothingness. And we do find dead Elster units, but we keep walking forward. That's not our goal. Our goal is a ship, seemingly the same one we exited at the beginning. Elster looks with confidence at a hatch on the ship and walks up to it. Clutching her fingers around it, she begins to pull. However, it's in vain as her arms rip from her body, wires tearing, bolts and screws falling to the floor. Elster coils back. Alone in the wasteland, a sea of red, forgotten memories. Elster slowly begins to fade, and as the light fades from her eyes, so too does Signalis end. But that's the ending?
Mm-hmm.
But Zizi, I still have so many questions. Like, where is Alina? Who is Ariane? And what happened to the person we were looking for? This is just.
Sharp says the game says you can still continue.
Oh, yeah. I knew that.
No, you didn't.
Here we are, back at the beginning. But this time, something is different. We're not alone. Classified information. Gestalt officer eyes only. Previous experience with this replica model has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural pattern used for this unit. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. Elster units were chosen for the Penrose program for their adaptability and reliability under long-term isolation conditions. Stoic and reserved, Elster units have a relatively stable neural pattern. It is best for you to leave it alone and interact with the Elster unit as little as possible. Elster's neural pattern was a soldier of Venton origin, so their needs are basic. Avoid talking to the Elster unit about the war. Penrose vessels are fitted with a specialized calibration pod, which may help with persona stabilization. To avoid the resurfacing of Gestalt memories, do not show or give the Elster unit photographs, especially of soldiers during the war. Do not show the Elster unit movies, or let it listen to music. Do not try to befriend the Elster unit. Elster! You're up. I missed you. I miss you too. It's our 3,000 cycle anniversary. We'll be getting the updated mission parameters later, so I thought it'd be nice to celebrate. Wait, let me put on some music. The opening takes place on a ship, jump into a massive hole, and after this, we're placed into a dilapidated restroom, peering into a mirror. We exit the bathroom and find nobody is home, but we do find a couple fleshy hallways with an unsettling aura. We jump down a hole and wake up in Rotfront, Orion's home planet. Mounds of flesh cover the vacant halls. What once was a bustling city is now just a series of empty concrete corridors. Here we finally gain some insight into what exactly is going on. The story of Ariane. Ariane was a young gestalt. Eventually, her mother Iris took her to an isolated radio station near Rotfront. Ariane knew little of the world outside the walls of the station, and thus grew to love artistic endeavors. In particular, she was an adept painter. Eventually, she was relocated to the urban cities of Rotfront by her aunt. Here she was bullied for her love of art, and her hair began to turn white. It is here where she met the Ito twins, whom she quickly became friends with. Around this time, Ariane also discovered the Penrose program, a program dedicated to the discovery of new worlds, an opportunity for Ariane to explore, to escape. Not all was well, however, as Ariane suffered a grave injury, leaving her with insomnia. It was later discovered that Ariane was in fact bioresonant, an ability which was never fully explained. However, this is what made her a potential threat to the nation's government. Despite her continued interest in the arts, led her to be trained as a radio officer, just like her mother. After her tenure, she was scheduled to be assigned to the mining facility we explored throughout the game. However, she managed to be recruited to the Penrose program. Here she met Elster, the ship's technician. Ariane slowly fell in love with her companion aboard the ship. They watched movies together, listened to music. She taught her how to dance and even attempted to teach her how to draw. However, this ship was only designed for 3,000 cycles. On the 3,000th cycle, Elster and Ariane danced one last time. Holding each other close, they rested within Ariane's quarters. Back in Rotfront, Elster finds Issa Ito. However, something is different. She's no longer looking for her sister because her sister was already dead. Slowly, we see her decompose into a mound of flesh, looking on in horror as we're helpless to prevent her fate. Despite seeing all these corrupted replicas countless times before, this is the first time we see a gestalt being turned, or in fact see any living being turn. All that's left is that mound of flesh. After finding a series of tarot cards throughout the building, we complete the final puzzle and find ourselves in Ariane's room. The radio room from the beginning. From here, it all ends. Once again, we meet the Folk unit, who reveals that she has Elster's memories. We engage her, and after besting her, find Adler at the gate once again. This time, we will end the cycle. Elster walks out into the void, and arrives at the ship. It all ends here. The promise, the cycle, the torment. It's just one step away. Elster walks in the ship, finding notes from Ariane, and eventually, her own body. Previously she failed, but this time it will be different. This time, it will end. She walks into the room with Ariane, still in the pod. Will she even remember her? But she does, and the heartbreaking realization sets in. There's only one way for this to end. Elster. I can't do it. You have to do it. It's time for this to end. Please. Sorry. Thank you. That was Signalis. But what was the point of all this? Just some depressing journey into madness? I don't understand. What happened to Ariane? What happened to... I can't do this. I can't. I just can't. I'm going to do the rest myself. I'm sorry for getting you dragged into this, ZZ.
Sharp, what the heck is going on?
I've talked some more to the Elster unit. She's different from the replicas I knew back home, nothing like my teachers or the Blackboard Protector. I know she didn't have a choice, but it feels like she's also here because she didn't fit in. We've run away from the world together. At first, I didn't like having someone around, and I was glad she was quiet and didn't approach me, but lately, I've missed having someone I can talk to. It's been so long since I've last seen another person. I never thought I'd miss it. Except her, everything is the same around here. Always. Nothing ever changes. Signalis, not dissimilar from Silent Hill in Resident Evil, forces the player to wander alone. While the areas do feel lived in with showers, dorms, and other facilities, barely any life is found, or at least anything resembling a friendly face. Despite the many enemies wandering the corridors and the few replicas met along the way, none of them provide meaningful companionship. It feels just as artificial as the beings themselves, a coating of flesh and blood over a cold metal husk. Even when the end supposedly comes, and you are face to face with your beloved, Elster still can't escape the loneliness. In Signalis, you are truly, utterly alone. It's a loneliness of your own creation.
I don't trust why they never just talk to me. I care. I'm a good person, right? Cycle 225. When I signed up for this mission, I just wanted to get away from everything. I was sick of rat run, of school, of the photo store. Sick of the fake smiles and whispering behind people's backs. When I saw the photo of that soldier, I wondered who she was. Was she happy? Was her family proud of her? Did her comrades love her? Since we all looked alike, could I have been like her? But in the end, I just wanted to leave. Nothing I had done or made ever meant anything to anyone. So why bother? Here, I'm finally free. I get to be by myself and do what I want. I can finally be happy.
To be close is to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable is to open oneself up to suffering. The most obvious is the pain of loss. Losing those whom you love is painful, and often unbearable. Elster's journey is in part due to her tormented state regarding Ariane, her inability to accept that it needs to end. While this may be read as the same as a fear of being alone, if no connection was present, there would be no chance of pain. The virus seemingly acts in a similar manner. Most of the surviving replica units are detached and cold. The only surviving units with an emotional connection are broken. A Mina unit bleeding to death, a Star and Yule unit sharing their final moments. Being together prevents one from dying alone. But it might also make it impossible to live. Attachment corrupted Adler, drove Falk mad, and kept Ariane from peacefully passing, and Elster's pain and regret drove her to endure all of this. Elster units are designed to be alone. Perhaps this is just some form of divine punishment.
Who am I? Why am I even trying all this? Do I even know who I am? Cycle 1840. I can't concentrate on anything. It's like there's this fog inside my head, and whenever I try to do anything, I just can't focus. I want to go outside. I want to breathe fresh air. I want to feel the wind on my face and hair. What did that even feel like?
Elster spends most of the game within a fog, moving forward but not knowing why. Despite this, everyone else knows what she is, who she is. Too many memories and lived experiences shape who you are. The idea of slowly forgetting everything is terrifying. One by one, every part of you vanishing into a gate beyond which you cannot pass. The replicas, due to their gestalt neural patterns, contain within them the memories of their donors, some of whom even remember their names. Double so for Elster, since every unit has been copied from a decommissioned Penrose unit. Perhaps the unit which fell in love with Ariane. A sea of confusion where the waves quickly overtake those trapped within.
The fact of the matter is, I know what Sharp wants. What Sharp would never admit to.
In trying to put Signalis into one category, in trying to make it about one fear, one core pillar, I've fallen right into its clutches. Signalis, at its
core is a game about being human. While humanity likes to think of itself as logical, even logic is a human creation in and of itself. Elster, a biomechanical being which is, by all metrics aside from biological human, shares the same flaws as her flesh and blood creators. She's emotional, willing to tear the world itself asunder for personal love. She cannot remember everyone or everything and is tormented by the contradictions and information she doesn't know. She bleeds, and despite having more stamina and a stronger body than any human likely would, she still is mortal. Even with her soul passing from body to body, eventually she cannot escape death. Being human is not a logical process. It's not a simple line from life to death. It's a mess of contradictions, and inherently limiting. As can be said about Signalis, a lot of being human is knowing enough to know how little you comprehend. Signalis is a game that limits you, mechanically and narratively. We, as human, don't see our full lives. We only remember the short glimpses, things which are important. Signalis is terrifying, but it's beautifully, rawly, and vulnerably human. The flaws earlier make the heartwarming romance between Ariane and Elster, the banter present within the notes found throughout the corridors, and all the other smaller details present within the story, all the more distinct and beautiful. Despite this game being so horrific, there's something that feels positive about it. Signalis is a game about being human.
But wait. Those are just gloves.
Sharp, what the
Come on,
heck just
idiot.
happened?
I don't know.
You really don't know.
I genuinely don't know. It just happened.
Sure. Are we gonna talk about this?
I guess I just needed some time to think.
Time to think. You put me through an existential crisis.
Till next time. Guys, gals, and all those outside and in between, this is SharpZ. Signing off.
You can't just end the
Man,
episode,
I'm glad
Sharp.
to have these stupid things back.